Good evening. I'd like to call the City Council special meeting of Tuesday, August 15th to order. And first on the agenda, we have approval of the agenda.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to make public comment? Anyone online that would like to make public comment? Hey. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, Michael Skihan. I'm a full-time resident of Cannon Beach, and I wanted to speak to action item 2 on the agenda, if I could. Again, we've only lived here a year, so still trying to catch up on all the various projects and activities, but we certainly love living here. And from what I know, though, I'm opposed to the school renovation project as it currently is outlined. And it's really for 3 reasons in light of the price of the project, knowing that financial resources are limited for us in Cannon Beach, like they are for most small communities. And I really just believe that there are higher priority needs in the community, such as affordable housing, the parking challenges, public services such as emergency services. I think there's a need for more suitable workspace for the water department employees. Climate change is really big on my mind, and whether or not we're doing fast enough to prepare for what's coming our way. And the list goes on. And so the estimated annual costs are also a concern, and I believe those monies could be well spent elsewhere. And I just encourage you to continue to weigh the project as currently outlined against more pressing needs. Personally, I think it would be prudent just to slow down the project and consider a more full-fledged community survey if that hasn't been done, and perhaps even visiting other similar municipalities that have funded similar projects to assess a real return on investment. And then finally, it just seems we've turned to special taxes to fund projects, and I can certainly appreciate that. But I also encourage you to look at new revenue streams or look at curtailing expenses, because I think that the days of just adding taxes are going to be limited. So thank you very much for your consideration of my comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online that would like to make public comment? Anyone in the audience? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, so action item number 1 is the continuation of Stanley A. Roberts remand from LUBA of an approval of a type 1 development permit in conjunction with the building permit 164-22-000006 DWL for the development of a new residence and accompanied road development. Tonight is a continuation of the council's consideration of this land use matter. The council held a hearing on this application on July 10th, 2023, then held the record open for additional testimony and argument consistent with state law. Last week on August 9th, 2023, the council began its deliberations and adopted a tentative decision and directed staff to develop findings to document our decision. The council received a draft set of findings yesterday afternoon and hopefully has had a chance to review them. Now is the time for the council to identify any concerns or changes that you may have with the draft findings. And if necessary, we can send it back to staff for further refinement, or if the findings look appropriate, we can adopt them as our final decision. With that, I will open the matter for the council's consideration.
Well, I think the findings are very thorough and very well done, and the findings and conclusions, and I think it was an excellent job was done.
They're exactly what I expected from our feedback at the meeting.
And I feel the same way. I don't have any amendments to it. I'm willing to adopt them as they stand.
So, well, I move to adopt the findings on the, is there a thing? Oh, okay. Sorry, I move that we direct staff. Wait a minute, where?
To deny.
We direct staff to, that says revise. I don't want to revise the draft staff.
No, I move to deny,
We don't want to deny.
deny the application.
Oh,
The application.
Oh, I move to deny the application for development permit in conjunction with the building permit DP 2206 and adopt the findings as presented as the council's final decision.
second.
Okay.
You got there first.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
President McCarthy,
Yes,
Councillor Hayes,
Yes.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Knopf.
Yes. Okay, thank you. I'd like to commend the staff and for all their work on this matter. We did a really nice job with it. So thank you.
Thank you, Steve
Yeah.
and Robert
Agreed.
And Robert
and Bill.
and Tessa and Bill and
Robert.
the world. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have a review of the Canamich Elementary School design for design review board submittal. And Bruce?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh, my great paper.
Generator?
That's the motorcycle.
We're going before the Design Review Board on September 21st. The material has to be submitted by August 24th. And so we are in that process right now. And we want you to have another chance to take a look at the work, make sure it's what you intended. And there was some details on the north elevation, which was the end of the gym. And we talked about several options from a staff standpoint, and with CETA, we think we captured what it was that you liked the best, but we recognize that it didn't come back before you for a final review. So with that, Dustin, if you're there.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. How's everybody?
Great.
Excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Sure. Okay, are you all able to see my screen?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so at the last, we've had a few COEs since we last talked about design. The last time we really talked about design was COE number 6. And in that community outreach event, we came forth with a couple of options for the north facade of the remodeled gym. What you're looking at right now is one of those options. Feedback we got from this one, the panel liked the recess in the north facade, gave it a little bit of architectural relief. There wasn't great feedback about the amount of glazing. The other option we're about to look at that you had seen had more glazing. And the door system in this, in order to open up the interior gym to the exterior park area, we were in this option using a couple of 6 or 7 foot wide pivot doors that would pivot in the center. Several concerns came about that, not least of which was maintenance concerns. The other option that you had seen was this option here. This option, we broke the outdoor canopy. Instead of just taking it from around the courtyard on all sides and then wrapping it to the north side of the gym, we made it its own structure and we raised it a little bit higher than the adjacent new canopy. And then to optimize on the amount that we were able to open up the interior to the exterior, we opted to present to you a couple of overhead doors. The concerns with this one, in going back and reviewing that COE number 6, where the garage door aesthetic really isn't Cannon Beach, as well as from the exterior. And then on the interior, there was some feedback from council that, you know, having this really nice remodeled gym on the inside and then looking out towards the estuary, seeing these overhead door tracks is probably not the indoor aesthetic that you would like. That said, one of the positive things about this game was that the canopy was higher. So there was more view opportunities from inside the gym out towards the park and the estuary. So we were given the direction to come up with some combination of the two schemes with all of the benefits of both. So more glazing, the high canopy, no overhead doors, and a better option for indoor-outdoor transition. And so what we came up with is this version here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I know it's you've got a large screen, but can't get it big enough. But this is as big as I can get it. So what we've done, we've maintained that high canopy. We got rid of the overhead doors. We increased the amount of glazing. So what's special about this structure is while it's really difficult to create openings on the arched roof section of the building, which is most of the building, there's really not much limit on the ends. So we're able to open this up nicely, have a lot of glass, no overhead doors, no tracks from the inside. And then the transition from indoors to the outdoors, you see these pairs of sliding doors. That's one option. There are other options to explore within this opening and how to open this up, but this is one way to do it that's probably more cost effective than the overhead doors that were in the original budget. We can look at other options like vertical bifold doors or collapsible glass accordion style doors. But these doors here, you'd be able to slide them open, one panel over the next, and then that last panel would fold to the interior. So that complete opening of what you're seeing of about 12 feet in width could be open at once. And that's not used for egress. There's individual egress doors like there was on the previous scheme. Those doors are on the north-south orientation located within the recess itself. And with that, Bruce, do you want me to go over the rest of the COE 6 presentation that we had?
The board like to see the rest of the building? Yes, yes.
Okay, yes.
Please, we got, yes,
Okay.
please do.
The last that this group saw, we'll go ahead and start up here at the top. And if I go too fast or too slow, please, just please let me know, and I'm happy to revise as necessary. So the existing gym building, the existing classroom building, we're demolishing a portion of that existing classroom building, and in its place and in place of the existing breezeway, building a new heritage lobby. We've got a southeast entry plaza that is the site's occupants, first steps onto the site. We want this to be the place where the Clatsop Nehalem tribe, the story of them and their ancestors is beginning to be told. An optional path to the north of that is the Heritage Garden. This space is intended to be for native plantings known to and used by the ancestors of the Clatsop Nehalem. Just north of that is our kind of winding continuation of the existing city path. It currently runs along this dotted line up here that's a little bit harder to see. We've changed the path a little bit to meander to create some other viewing opportunities, to create opportunities to get down right by the estuary. And then, but very much once you get past Neck Hughes Park here and approach the Story Circle, it very much maintains its current pathway. Neck Hughes Park, and again, this is all based on a very lengthy programming effort during the pre-design phase. Many folks, the vast majority of folks, wanted to see Neck Hughes Park, a large turf recreation area, remain. So that's what we have here in light green. Between that area and the Heritage Garden, we've got what we're calling a heritage playground. That's a natural playground inspired area for children with a little open-sided longhouse inspired canopy structure adjacent to it for those watching the kids. On the other side of Neck Hughes Park, we've got the Story Circle and Amphitheater. This is a dual space. So it's first and foremost a story circle. This was a very high priority for the tribe. It's a place for reflection, a place for them to gather and to feel close to their ancestors of this site. It is designed such that it can accommodate larger gatherings than just those for a story circle. And we would do that by having a driftwood landscape sort of bleed out from the center storytelling circle. And that driftwood landscape would be a place for people to lean against or to sit on or to stand on to watch a performance there at the story circle. It's a little bit misleading in the amphitheaters you think of typically recessed down into the ground. In this case, the story circle is 1 or 2 steps above existing grade. So when you're in the story circle, you're basically up above your attendance. We've got the food bank to the south. We do have a new canopy structure that's going to wrap around the north courtyard. It's going to wrap all the way along that eastern facade of the existing food bank. That does several things. It increases the versatility, the usability of that north courtyard space, but it also helps to encompass the food bank as part of the CBE project in concept. And I think that's the site in a nutshell. Moving on from there, we've got our, yes, sir.
Would you go back to that one, please? I just want to talk a little bit about lighting from our meeting today.
Sure.
Ooh. We met with the lighting consultant today, and I guess this is more of a policy question, and that's how brightly do we want to light this? And what we ended up with is it's minimal lighting. It's kind of like what the rest of the city is. There's right along this part of Beaver, there are like 5 lights that are shining down. It would give enough because that's a gathering place. There'll be curbs. We want to make sure nobody would step off of those. And then along the side here, we were looking at it and it's like during the summer, it's going to be light until 10 o'clock. So we don't need lights for that. And then during the winter, we're going to have much less visitors and people are not necessarily going to want to go there at night and, you know, need to be able to go through when they can still go through during the day. So we have lighting here down at the plaza, but as far as the rest of the Heritage Garden and the playground up here, that sort of thing, it's not lit. And then we decided, and this is totally subject to your determination, but this path here, we decided to not light. And the reason for that is if you go over towards by the band shell and by the wetlands, that whole path is not lit. And a good portion of the city streets are not lit. So it's, I said we really appreciate darkness over here. So I suppose, and then now the area here with the canopy, that those will be lit underneath, and they've got a really nice treatment on it where there's the wood post, and there's a light here that kind of shines down, and so it's a reflective, and you know, back into the light as opposed to having light shining out into the Nicoos area. And then one other place that we have to make this work is this path here going back is a true handicap accessibility path. And so with that, there will be bollards. And by bollard, I'm talking about a light about this high that shines down. So there will be bollards along that trail getting back over to this area. So I don't know if I covered everything, but generally it was just the policy of taking a look and saying that we don't want it lit up more than what the city is. And we're looking at the times that it would be used, but the front will be well enough lit, but more like downtown, like when you go downtown, we don't have a lot of light. It's like 2 streetlights on an entire block. And it seems to work. And so we're kind of trying to achieve that level of light.
What about north of the gym and that area in there? Will there be any lights under the canopy?
Yes, yes. Yeah, and all the way, the lights will be in the canopy. And that's what I was saying, that the light will come from let me see, like if that's Nakus, then the posts that are here will shine light towards the building, not have the building shine light out onto Nakus. And we'll bring you all this, for your approval later on. I'm just going for the policy question because we do have a lighting plan required for DRB. And so we want to make sure that from a philosophy standpoint, that we are on the same page.
And this follows the dark sky ordinance?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, I think
And that's
great.
important.
yes.
That we
Really
follow.
glad to see that.
There's no lights that shoot, shine up. There's some issues that we've got to figure out, like over. Oops. In here, you've got a statue, and that's the welcoming woman. And it'll be relatively tall. And so we're trying to figure out, okay, now how do you light that without, shining lights straight up? So that's just a challenge we got to deal with. But other than that, it's all down. And where we do have lights in the Nakus area, they're bollards,
And how tall are those?
right about like this.
About 3 feet.
And the path is wide enough for a wheelchair?
Yes, definitely. The
Along
surface,
with the bollards?
yes, it's lit by bollards and the lights will be shining down. Do you remember how wide that path is, Duncan? Dustin?
It's okay. I respond to all kinds of names.
Oh, we've got,
We have this one drawn at 6 feet. It needs to be a minimum of 36 inches.
So the wheelchair won't run into the bollards, right?
no, it's.
No. So
It's-
currently it's wide enough for 2 people in wheelchairs going in opposite directions to pass each other. And the bollards themselves would be located just off the path.
I think that's great. I have a question that's unrelated to lights, but it's related to the exterior.
Sure.
I'm just curious, like with the garden, the heritage garden and the other open areas, have you, what about elk? I mean, we have herds of elk and they hang out in that area a lot. And I don't see how any garden is going to survive actually, or unless, I don't know. I'm just curious.
What we are told by the tribe is that the indigenous plants, those sorts of things do better with the elk than what flowering plants and
Oh.
other things.
Okay.
So remains to be seen with our elk community.
Yeah, but it'd be kind of cool to have them bedded down various places too. I don't know.
I think more of a concern on that is the complexity of it. I think elk may come through and munch at it, but I think you're right about the native plants.
Yeah.
And if they get eaten, then they grow back but I just think it's too complicated. And I think it's a native plant garden that describes some tribal use. So it feels like we're trying to make that be more than it is.
Okay. And we've had those discussions too. About how complex do we want that area to be? And this all looks very large when you're looking at it on a site plan like this. But the gym, as big as the gym is, that's only 60 feet. So this is, so maybe you've got 180 feet or something, a little bit more to the edge of the classrooms. It's not a big space. This is not a big space. And it's also sharing area with what do you call it? Dustin, help me with the name.
The public right of way?
No, the drainage area here.
A dry creek.
The dry creek, yeah, I think it's a dry creek, thank you. With that sort of thing, so we'll take a look at that. That was one of the first designs that came out, and we really haven't spent time on the Heritage Garden.
But when we do spend time, the tribe will be
Oh, absolutely,
our advisors.
yeah, absolutely.
I was concerned about the maintenance of that garden.
And we've had some people say that they will be involved with the maintenance of it.
They can keep up with it.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, and that's one of my concerns about, let's just simplify it.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it just being a single path
Mhm.
with demonstration gardens on both sides.
So I think that's really nice. I think that design is nice. I
Yeah.
like it. And I'd just be curious to hear how the tribes weigh in on whether it's complex or not, or if they like it the way.
I can't tell. Dick, are you on? If he is,
I didn't see him.
I didn't see
Same on the,
yeah.
Yeah.
They knew about the meeting, I think. Okay. But the conversations are going on with our landscape architect and with Roberta Bash and with others that are going to be involved with the plantings.
I mean, the structure itself is, it's very linear,
Mhm.
except for the curve of the roof on the gym. And I like the fact that all these curves are, for the paths in the garden, sort of in juxtaposition. I think that looks good.
All right, so if there's no further questions on the lighting, I'll just turn it back over to Dustin.
Okay. All right, so if we look at the existing building, this is just showing what is being demolished. So all of that north mezzanine in the gym. And then again, about 20% of the school building, that end would come off, that east end. And then we would replace that and the breezeway with the new addition. Moving on, let's see here. Okay, this is our floor plan for the revised building. So we've taken two buildings and we're making a space that could be used as one large event center or multiple separate venues with different functions. So that main entry to the building is the Heritage Lobby, although there's a secondary entrance that would take you directly into the gym through the gym vestibule. And then you've got three separate meeting / workshop / exhibition spaces. As it was approved, two of these spaces could be converted to one by removing an existing load-bearing wall and replacing it with a folding partition.
And Dustin, is there flexibility in where that folding wall is?
There is. There's two possibilities there. It could either be the wall that's currently demolished, or it could be a wall, this other wall further to the west. The reason why we have it where we have it is because it gives an opportunity for the larger of the two spaces to have direct access to the kitchen area.
I don't know if you've been following our committee meetings on it. But I think, this project has definitely evolved since we started talking
Sure.
with, kind of moving away from being events to it being more of an interpretive center. And I think a consensus opinion was that first flexible classroom space should be more of an exhibit area, which if you have a partitioned wall, it takes away the entire wall for potential exhibits there. So I don't know, I make sure I'm not talking about my preference and committee preference.
No, I think you did a nice job of that, representing the committee.
So it would probably be, you know, in our opinion, better to have that full space off of the lobby, be its own space, the size that it is, with a real wall, and the folding wall be on the west, between the two west classrooms.
Sure, we can easily make that change before submitting for the DRB. However, I do believe for the purpose of the Design Review Commission, we're not going to focus in our presentation too much on the floor plan. I think we're trying to keep their review and comments to site and exterior architecture.
Yeah, I was just wanted to make sure that there was no structural concerns that
No,
you couldn't just move those two.
Nope, that's a very easy design change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Were there any other plan changes that are a result of the committee's meetings?
Yes.
Glad you're laughing.
Yes. No, I don't think any of it's huge. Did you have something you wanted
I
to?
do want to make sure that the gym can be used for recreation as well as events. And I do hope that we focus on events, not make it completely an interpretive center, but make sure that we have space and a design and curriculum and everything else for events. I don't want it to be, as somebody pointed out recently, just a museum.
Right.
I want to
Yeah,
make sure that it
that
is-
kind of grates at me because it's, you know, no one has ever said museum. But it is an interpretive center that we're trying to tell the story of the tribe, but also of ecology. And I feel like ecology has been left out of a lot of this formula, although they're very much interrelated.
Right.
I mean, the Native people chose that site because of the ecology. And I think that we've got two very interrelated stories to tell.
As long as we have, I guess the gym, I want to make sure that the gym is used for recreation and is the design for recreation for local residents as well as visitors. And I want to make sure that we do have, and I think we do have the space and the intention to use it for events, whether they're events focusing on ecology and culture, but also other kinds of events as well. So
I think we-
that flexibility in that use.
We really came to the realization that we're not going to have we don't need 3 classrooms. It's highly unlikely we would ever use 3 classrooms, something going on at once. But having the 2 classrooms that are dividable, but opening up to 1 seems like plenty of flexibility. And again, am I
No, you're fine.
okay?
I'd lunch you.
Thank you. So it's that need for that semi-permanent exhibit, not a museum in that space off the lobby, and potentially a space where there could be interactive video. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a super permanent setup. I was at Fort Clatsop just the other day, and they have a nice little corner that's got a big screen and a button you can press to select one of about 25 videos. And I think that's where we're going with some of this. I know it was also mentioned that that south wall. With the large windows on the south wall of the classroom wing. That was starting to limit some of the potential exhibition space. In all three spaces. And so there was some conversation about whether. Transom windows or smaller, higher windows. Might be a better choice.
I don't understand that. I mean, I thought that the first classroom was. You know, the one farthest to the east was going to be sort of a semi-permanent exhibition space. So why do you need the two other classrooms as exhibition spaces as well?
Because if we do move the sliding wall, then there becomes very little wall space. And I don't know, I think I'm speaking to others' concerns a little more than mine on that one. But for maximum flexibility. And the other thing is, okay, it's a classroom and you're looking out onto a street. So,
It's light, it's natural light.
Yeah.
and that's
Which,
what transom windows do too.
well, not, but no, they don't. It's like being in a basement.
All here for exhibition space and you have a whole
Yes.
wall there for exhibition space.
Like I said,
It's
I'm
an
not,
exhibition, it's a classroom, it's not.
I'm trying to mention some things that came up in the committee and I'm not trying to make a case, a strong case for that one. I will mention that, you know, we have agreed that the trail is an interpretive trail. And it would be a mix of the historical site, so some of the tribal interest, Lewis and Clark interest. There's a spot where you can essentially nice clearing to look across the creek to where Lewis and Clark camped on their visit. But also tell the story about the watershed, tell the story about the ecology of the watershed, birds and wildlife. And that all tied in, it kind of being one trail that's native plant garden, and then telling this kind of more inclusive story of ecology and then the history of the site as it relates to the native people.
Are you thinking of like signs like around the treatment plant, like plaques that are, you know, is that what?
Me, what I'm thinking is it's probably a QR code thing. But it's got several stops and not a lot of signs, or something, a numbered stop that's got printed material.
Yeah,
that-
QR codes. I mean, that's great for some people and other people are not going to respond to it at all.
But this is actually a very good use for that technology, and more people are using it actually.
Not willingly.
The only other part on the trail was it kind of does loop back around with the handicap portion you've got, but making really the concept of making this a complete interpretive loop trail, I think is kind of the direction that we're going with that. So I don't know if anything has to be done, except there are potential interpretive stops all along the loop trail.
This is why we're talking about this now, because what we submit is what we would end up building unless we go in for a change. There's modifications, there's minor modifications, there's major modifications. And so if we're talking about changing windows, it's something we can do later, but it'll depend on how much modification it's seen in trying to do this. And we're a little, when we talked about the garden is probably the least developed right now. And we're gonna have to present the garden as it looks like it's, you know, was intended to be. But that's something that we would possibly change with a minor or a major modification.
Yeah, I think everything I'm mentioning is pretty minor, because I mean, the trail already is set up for it's really a canvas for this interpretive information where you've got the little spur that comes off the trail down to the watershed is the perfect place to offer some information on the watershed. So, I mean, maybe these are details that we don't even need to talk about now. I just, Dustin and I haven't talked about this,
Yeah.
or I'm not sure he's heard the committee discussions, but kind of just wanted to get it in his head
Sure.
as he continues to fine tune
Okay.
what we're doing.
No, that's great. And I have been listening to those, not live, but typically the same week that they've been going on.
Okay, I'm sorry you've had to put up with some of that.
That's okay. That's okay.
Thank you for listening.
But I guess I'm confused because I thought your committees, I thought the purpose of the committee was to decide the use and how to run the operation, not to be making architectural changes without, a full on look from the whole council. Because like, for example, the window thing, I hate that idea. I do. I hate the idea of having transom windows
Yeah, I
instead
don't like transom.
a lot of light from natural light into a classroom. But it never, this is the first time I'm hearing it. And I didn't think that was what you were supposed to be doing. I thought you were supposed to be figuring out the uses and how it'll function, how to pay for it. And now I'm hearing all this architectural stuff.
We also had a discussion beforehand that the design was not to be part of the discussion.
Right.
Committee.
I think that's good to a point, but we've also, as we talk about use, that kind of defines what you can, the way that you'd want the space set up. And I think the example of that sliding wall being the other wall, not the one where we want more exhibit space, is an example of that. It's something that's an easy change. It's something that we hadn't anticipated because we were all thinking, here's our event center, but we've also come to the realization that there will be events, but the primary use is going to be an interpretive center.
Right. But I'm just,
And our
That kind of changes some
committee
things.
has not discussed windows
okay.
at all.
Yeah, I think that's a Sam idea, honestly. I mean,
Right,
he's
it
the
was.
one that was pressing, sorry, Sam, but
He's not
I'm-
the architect of this building.
Exactly.
So
I'm-
I think, I don't,
trying to express committee discussions.
Well, I think that's fine, but I think it also could be accommodated if it was really necessary to provide space for hanging things in front of the windows, that something temporary could be put up there if it was really necessary. If you're looking to create something permanent in those rooms, I'm not in favor of removing the windows,
No, I think all along we've stressed flexibility.
especially since we are losing the transom windows on the other side, on the
Let's
north side.
stop talking about that.
and the
That's not, it was a conversation that came up.
Okay,
I'm not pushing for it. I'm
I just wanted.
not sure it was a total agreement on the committee. I just wanted to make sure that
I think that's.
The things were
that's important To impart that, Gary, I just would like to have the council have a chance to respond to it.
Yeah.
So that
I think you have.
the body are
And
doing.
the installation of exhibits, it isn't just a matter of walking into a room and throwing up a few, posters. It's very, very expensive and time consuming to install an exhibit that has any meaning and any aesthetic value and learning value. So I don't think you're going to have a bunch of people wanting to put up really extensive exhibits in the two classrooms. I would be surprised just because of the expense of doing it.
So we're still talking about that.
Yep, still a lot.
Not anymore.
I don't think we need to talk about it anymore.
Bruce.
Just so everybody knows that there was discussions that occurred at the committee, but none of the possibilities that were discussed by the committee were included in making any changes here. And in fact, we probably won't present the interior design because it's supposed to be outside of the prerogative of the design review.
Yeah, let's be careful about that.
But there will be times for, like, so if there's an interior change, it won't have to go back to DRB. If it's an exterior change, possibly it would, or possibly it can be signed off by the chair.
Believe it or not, that's everything on my list, Dustin. I'm glad you're watching. I'm glad you've been watching the meetings.
Yeah, no, and they've been extremely helpful, and I'm so glad that folks were listening about how the importance of flexibility and versatility, because we are able to make a change in function like this with very little change to the actual design. So I hope the importance of that resonated. It sounds like it has.
Yes, and we weren't trying to redesign it. We were just looking at ways that we could those easy things that we could do that really
Yeah.
fit use that we've kind of narrowed down to.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Would you like me to continue going through these?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see here. Where did we leave off? Existing. All right. The floor plan, and then we get into the exterior elevations. We won't show aerials like this to the design review committee. We're worried that they may get stuck on the color of, the white roof, which is the current color of the TPO roof above the school, the new roof, above the classroom building. These sections of roof, for example, the canopy in front, the canopy back, the school structure or the classroom structure, you'll never see that from anywhere except the plane or a drone. It's just not visible to someone standing on or off site. More just aerial photos that we showed you all that we won't be showing the DRC. And then the Southeast Entry Plaza. Again, this is a critical space. This is where, the idea being that this is really a threshold space. When you come to this site, you are immediately aware that this is a special place, that this is a place of cultural, ecological, historic significance. And here's why. And then you start to learn about those features of the site in this space. We've got the welcoming figure in front. There's not a design for that yet, but the idea is that it would be similar to the existing welcome figure that faces west. However, this one is envisioned to be female and perhaps with a child. And then we've got our building art, this mural. Again, that's not something, we'll have that grayed out for the design review committee, as with the welcome woman. We don't want them to get stuck on those things that haven't been designed yet and that are considered public art. So we'll have those grayed out. This is the view from the Southeast Entry Plaza, another threshold space and wayfinding technique to enter beneath this canopy and have it guide you to that main entrance of the lobby, which is around the face of our gym. These are a little bit old in that our parking now is 90 degrees. Here at this point in our COE 6, we were showing the angled parking, but otherwise no other changes. And a view of the south facade along Beaver with our main entrance. These doors here, it's another feature that we'll have to decide how much information we want to show the DRC. Those haven't been designed yet. They will have a tribal design and significance to them, but we don't have that at this time. And then the signage as well. Gary, did we settle on a name for this place?
Your illustration is perfect. Because we did not settle on a name, but everyone on the committee agreed that NACUS was going to be part of the
In
name.
there somewhere.
So everyone had a variation of NACUS, but
Okay.
So yeah, I won't say anymore.
All right. I knew there were different options that were thrown out there. I just didn't know if any of them officially stuck.
I guess we'll
And
get to that
again,
next.
all right.
Well,
As
we
far as
won't.
the signage goes, that's another thing that we're going to kind of gray out. We want to indicate, you know, it's blade signage, it'll be wood, but beyond that, we really don't have a design for it. And it's something that will be subject to a design review. It does not need to be in this design review. It can be its own application. And then again,
I think we just wanted to start calling the committee something besides the Cannon Beach Elementary Rejuvenation Project Research and Advisory Committee. So we shortened it to the NACUS facility.
I like it. All right, the north courtyard, again, you're seeing doors of different primary colors. This is sort of a design homage to the fact that this was an elementary school, and it's going to continue to be a place of discovery and education. And again, the main entrance from the north courtyard, so egressing out from the heritage lobby to the courtyard space. These are the two old options for the north facade. We're going to go ahead and submit elevations like this, more technical elevations, not just the pretty renderings for those of the DRC that want to look a little more closely at levels and, you know, how these various vertical elements relate to one another. For example, the gym structure to our heritage lobby, what that roof line looks like. More elevations. Again, you've seen the updated design for the north facade, so we'll update those technical drawings. We'll go ahead, and they don't ask for them, but there's probably no reason not to go ahead and give them views of sections through the building. So when they're looking at the site plan and the elevations, they're better able to make sense of these spaces. More of a for reference only type document. They won't see any of this, but for your reference, these were the interior renderings of the heritage lobby. Do we get? Yeah, we got full-size images here. And the pattern on the floor of the Northwest Oregon coast and Southwest Washington just getting picked up in the mouth of the Columbia River. This space was very closely designed. I mean, most of the project was, but especially this interior space. And, you know, before we were talking about the Heritage Garden, these are two spaces that were very closely collaborated with the tribe on. And this is just showing the various ways that heritage lobby could be set up as a workspace, as a display space with primarily circulation. The thought is that the floor of the heritage lobby would be an exhibit in and of itself, as well as one of the walls to help explain the diagram on the floor. And then just kind of a dusk shot. This is a true rendering. All the other three-dimensional images, we just refer to those as models. But when we start getting more of what it can feel like with the vegetation and the sky, and of course, wet pavement.
We hope.
Typical.
Don't forget the back.
That's right. So I think with that, we're looking for your authorization to go ahead and submit for our design review commission hearing The hearing itself that we're looking to submit for would take place is on the 20th of September, I believe.
21st.
21st of September, and we would need
Believe
to
so.
third Wednesday of September, whether that's the 20th or 21st, and then we would need to be
Thursday.
third Thursday.
Yes.
They meet on Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, thank you. I had it mislabeled in my schedule, and now I'm getting them crossed. So thank you for that. Anyways, we have to be submitted with most of our documentation to accompany the application by the 24th of this month. So a little over a week from now.
And this will not include the proposed changes to the north side of the gymnasium.
Oh, it will. Yes. What I was
Okay.
just showing you right now, this is what you saw for COE number 6. It's a similar but updated package that we'll end up submitting for the design review board, and everything will be updated at that point.
Did you need some feedback on that proposed north change?
Yes, that will
There
be.
is.
So here it is. And I can pull it up alongside the other two. We can run through those real quick again. So leaving it in place, you've got the original option A for the north elevation with the garage doors and the higher canopy. You had the original option B, which took the same elevation of the canopy that surrounds the courtyard and wrapped it in front of the gym at that lower elevation. No overhead doors, but more glass. And a recess in the facade itself for some architectural relief. And I know you all don't need the reminder, but this, it's not a particularly large structure, but given its surroundings of, a lot of residential and low commercial, it looks massive when you're driving in off the First Street Bridge. And it really is your first glimpse of Cannon Beach. And so the revised option we're coming with today, again, keeping that recess, we had positive feedback from council in that COE 6 presentation for that relief, for the higher of the two canopies, no overhead doors, and a better option for opening up the interior of the gym to Neck-Use Park and what we're calling the reception courtyard, which is this space underneath the canopy there, directly north of the gym.
Yeah, I think you did a great job responding to comments on that.
Yeah, I like number 3.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's lovely. I like it.
Dustin, I think we at one time talked about if somebody is making a presentation and wants to do some kind of something with a screen, for video or film or whatever, and decides they want to use that end of the room, which I think might be the only room end that they can use in our design. Is there any way of putting a screen there or something so that there's a light, the light coming from outside doesn't interfere?
Yeah, so just a couple of things to point out there. This is the north end. So you're not going to have the type of glare that you would have if this was the south end.
Right.
So don't get me wrong, there's still glare, but it's much more easily addressed on the north facade than it is on a south or west facing facade. The problem windows here. So if you have somebody doing a presentation on the north end of the gym and your audience is on the south end of the gym, so looking north at them, looking in the direction of these windows, presumably we're going to have, I envision there being a projection screen, a permanent projection screen, but that can be retracted when not in use. That screen would cover up the center windows, be a nice large screen. The windows we have really to worry about in terms of glare in a situation like that are the windows off to the side.
Yeah.
And with that, it's mostly these upper windows that aren't covered by the canopy. And those can be easily resolved with roller shutters that are either motorized or not motorized. However, in a situation like this, where if it wasn't motorized and they were manually controlled, you really don't want the general public to have access to that. So we would probably recommend they be motorized and controlled remotely.
Interior of the gym that I could take a look at?
The only don't think we had any at this presentation.
I know this is way off the subject, so maybe we can do it later, but
I was kind of wondering that too, what it looked like looking out with the new design.
yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, we never did develop that view during schematic design, and we're happy to focus on that. I think we're at a point in design where we need to start looking at that stuff.
Well, you do have an interior showing, or you have a kind of an aerial view showing where the restrooms to the entrance to the gym and the restrooms on one side and the kitchen on the other side. Can you show that? Maybe that'll answer a question I have. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so see that southern wall there, there's no real presentation space at all. So the only other presentation or stage space or anything like that would probably be at that northern end, unless you did something with the tables or something to make a stage on one of the side walls. So that's really the only place you have for a stage area.
Yeah, and again, going back to versatility and flexibility, any type of a stage, we would envision being able to be taken down and stored. So not a permanent stage.
Right.
And one thing that makes people really uncomfortable at events is if they're in full view when they get up to go to the bathroom, or they're in full view when they enter the space to take a seat.
Right.
So for us, even though the windows present a glare issue that does need to be resolved, it was a better solution for us to have that temporary stage setup be accommodated at the north end than at the south end, so that if you're there watching a presenter, you're not also watching the people who maybe are coming in late or need to run to the bathroom or what have you.
Well, I agree that area is the best area for a stage. Do you know what the space is in that area? What kind of, I know this is completely theoretical because of the tables and everything, but how much room is there for performances, like you have choirs or something coming in, or musicians or anything like that? How much space is there between, say those tables, that first row of tables, and the door to the north? Is there much space really in there for activity?
Right in this area here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you were going to have any kind of event that had a stage and platform here, what we would end up doing is this entire row would come out.
Right.
Would be left with all of these, and probably even shifting these a little bit further, especially these center tables down a little bit. So in this example here, we were showing 56 tables, about 112 chairs. So if it was a venue where you're having to accommodate a stage, then at a very minimum, these 12 seats and 6 tables come out.
If I can show another option. I went in with Thistle and Rose, and they brought their instruments and small amplifiers. And we started here, and we stood in the middle, and it was muddy because the sound You hear it, then you hear it when it bounces off the wall.
I can't hardly see you.
Okay. But you hear it when the sound goes this way, you hear it, bounces off the wall, you hear it. And we found the same thing if you went to the other end. We found is if you go to this wall, you don't have that same kind of distortion. And you also potentially seating, everybody has a better seat because you're closer to what that is. So I think that we do have another option for that kind of a presentation. There's no windows on this side. And we're going to be doing a lot of work on the acoustics of this room. But I don't know if we can make it that much better than just accepting the shape that it is and saying that is the best in terms of audience experience.
And you bring up a really good point, Bruce, in that, we laid this out with efficiency of space planning in mind. At this point in design, we have an acoustician on board, but they had not been, they weren't at a point in their analysis to be able to advise on, well, if you set up this way, this would be better based on, the acoustics of the natural shape of that space, to have a oral presentation at one end of the building, or a choir in the center, or amplified music at some other point in the structure. And there is going to be a natural spot within that structure to accommodate those different types of audio experiences. We won't be able to create the perfect audio experience for all of them. They're just they have very different needs in terms of reflecting sound and absorbing sound and the shape, but we can make all three very good. And we'll, in our next presentation, which is coming up here within a couple of months for City Council, we'll start to have those developed. We'll show you different layouts of the gym space that reflect acoustics for various types of events.
Where's the basketball hoop going?
So the basketball hoop, we're showing them running the width of the space as opposed to the length. This is not intended to be a full court basketball hoop, full basketball court, but rather two halves, either used separately or as part of a shortened court for a full court game. The hoops themselves are shown.
Love that.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
I was just saying that old guys like me love that.
Yes,
All
Oh,
that space between the two,
I don't want to be running full court.
the two lanes is wasted. Space in
Yeah.
between.
It's the pickleball of basketball.
that's right. Yeah, you get to that 3-point line and you're at half court.
We're looking to get 3 or 4 indoor pickleball courts in there. Volleyball.
And at one point we had a diagram of just sport lines to show you the various configurations, and you could get I think we had 3 pickleball courts, the volleyball court, we had a full basketball court that was actually running the opposite direction, but so many lines, and then on top of that the furniture layout. And so I think as we move forward, we'll come to you with multiple plans showing the different types of sports that can be accommodated with those lines highlighted for ease of viewing in that particular plan, then move on to the next. And
Okay, anything else? Thank you, Dustin.
sure, thank you.
Thanks, Dustin.
You betcha.
So do you have enough information?
Yes,
You need
thank
to-
you.
Okay,
No, that's good. Thank you.
great.
I just like to say, is your committee the ones who are tasked with the facility?
I think that came from Bruce. I don't know who, no, we are not.
Okay,
Maybe I'll leave it at that, but we did want to abbreviate the Cannon Beach Elementary
I understand that,
rejuvenation.
yeah.
And
So we
I,
did have that quick conversation.
I did mention that, like every time I write it or whatever, it's about
Yeah.
this long.
Yeah.
I think we should have a process that we figure out for
I'm
name
sure we will.
that involves more of the community.
And also because we're moving along with the project, it's time to settle it, what the name's gonna be.
Okay, anybody have anything for good of the order?
Just quickly, are we still on for the August 23rd
Yes,
City Hall?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
And we have an executive session that night,
Yes.
but then we don't need to have the August 22nd meeting that we were holding for the Roberts, just in case.
Correct.
Okay, good. So just have.
So we can delete that one.
Right.
Yay.
I have a couple of things.
Okay,
So I provided some language for the Travel Oregon
Mhm.
grant.
Yeah.
Are we gonna be able to get something in by Friday?
We will get something in by Friday. I think I texted you or emailed you, asking if you wanted us to go ahead and set it up to send it in.
I'm assuming it has to be that way.
Sure.
It's setting it up through their portal and
Right.
so I didn't see that, but I hope and I ran it by Barb.
yeah.
No, we still have time.
And I tried to make it cut and paste
Sure.
into their form, but
Yeah.
there's gonna be some of the details about the city as the applicant.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, you did a good job on it.
thank you.
Very nice job.
The only other thing I had was responding to the public comment earlier, and I don't think the person is online, but it is concerning that people think that the funding for the school is taking away from things like housing or public works or climate change efforts or whatever. So it's kind of a messaging issue to get out there with people in the community that these are tourism dedicated funds that by law either have to be spent on tourism marketing or a tourism facility. So, I mean, I saw it on Facebook today, I hear it here, and I don't know, we need to do everything we can to make it clear to people that it's like we're not choosing housing or other community priorities, that this is a state law on how these funds can be used. So I'm sorry, I didn't want to respond at the time, but I think us as a council, us as a community, we kind of need to get that out there.
Right.
And I just have a question. What is the Travel Oregon grant?
There's a Travel Oregon strategic grant. It's a biennial grant. They're looking to support projects, tourism projects that one, support cultural efforts, and two, support efforts to counteract some of the negative impacts of tourism. So essentially, their grant is exactly what our project is, both about honoring culture and about providing stewardship information and ecology information and educating people. So it kind of fit with
What would it be
everything that
used
they.
for? What would the money be used for?
I did a sample budget that, we've got this beautiful building, but we don't have any budget for actual interpretive information. So, this was just my submission. One, a model of the Nacoos Village, a scale model of the Nacoos Village would be one of those interpretive pieces. Two would be production of video, as I described earlier, the interactive video. So we could have, 15 or 20 2-minute videos on demand that tell you about the rainforest, tell you about the Nacoos Village, tell you about any of those subjects that we're interested in. And I think the last thing was a website, which could contain a lot of this interpretive information and those videos and the interpretive trail information. So it would fund the creation of a website as well.
And so was this grant submitted on behalf of the city?
Yes, the city has to be the applicant on it. And this is just a letter of intent.
Yeah.
We will be, if we're invited back, we can take a closer look at it.
Okay, and where does the money come from for Travel Oregon? What is the source?
These are all tourism dollars that have to be spent on projects like.
No, I mean,
this.
is it state tourism dollars? Is it
Yes.
coming back to us? We were applying to the state, actually. Travel Oregon is a state agency.
It's the Tourism Commission, yes.
Okay,
So it's all the tourism dollars that are coming in from every community.
we're
And
asking, and if we get money, let's say for a particular thing, like a model of the village, we have to spend it on that. So we're committing to doing something like that?
We'll find out more as we
Yeah.
go, because
I wanted to put together a budget, but it only gets us into being invited to actually submit.
Okay.
And then we can fine tune exactly what we're asking for.
Okay.
And then they say, hey, it's not what you originally said. You know, they can take it or leave it, I suppose. But
Does the money have to be spent in a certain, within a certain time frame?
it is biennial, so it has to be spent, I believe. I'm not sure of the date in 2025.
Okay. And I had one other thing for the,
Are you finished?
I am,
yeah, for the good of the order. I'm curious. Okay, so I still am so confused about the Chamber of Commerce and how all of that works and how everything ties together. And that's just being new. I just still don't see the whole big picture. So the community center there, or the community room, I guess you call it, with the big fireplace and, you know, that really pretty room. It seems like it's for a nonprofit to rent it for a function is incredibly expensive. And so I'm wondering, I mean, is the community center, who furnishes the income for that community center to be in existence? I thought the city was involved in it.
I think that the city's funds that we provide, some of it would go towards that. But they also rent it out for weddings, other things, and they keep the revenue from that.
Okay,
city owns the land, the chamber owns the building.
right.
And I think your question is really about budgeting. Is any of the city money that we're paying for operating the information center or doing our marketing, is it going to the management of that room?
And also my other, yeah, or if a nonprofit, a local nonprofit wanted to use that building for an event, and it's a nonprofit, isn't there should it be, if the city is providing some of the, has provided the land or is providing some of the funding, shouldn't it be affordable for a nonprofit?
Do you know what the rent is there? I don't know what the rent is.
I don't know what the
Well,
rates.
we're,
I-
a nonprofit here in the city was quoted $400 for, which is,
For how long? For how many?
well, it's for a lecture series. Just a regular lecture series. Maybe I need to get more information from them and for how many of the lectures. I sounded to me like it was for each lecture, but I don't see how that could be. And the response was, well, we're a nonprofit, we're a nonprofit too. So I'm just concerned. I just want to know how that works and what the mechanism is and what the schedule is and where the money's coming from to even fund that center, or how much of it is coming from the city, because if that's true, it seems odd to me that a local nonprofit can't afford to use it for a community event, an open community event. I'm not talking about a private party or a private function. I mean, for a community event open to visitors and community members alike.
I think this could be part of a bigger conversation,
I still.
but is there anything in our agreement with the chamber about the community hall? Okay,
So
that's
it's
part of a
something
bigger conversation.
Yeah. we need to address.
And we are having that, are we having a conversation about TLT? Did we ever decide, set a date?
Yes,
for
yeah,
TLT?
and I asked for some time to pull together the research, and we've pretty much done that. And so I'll try to get it on the September workshop.
Well, could we include in that discussion the use of the community room by local nonprofits when the event is open to the public and visitors alike?
Sure.
Like a lecture series about the ecology of the rock, let's say, or the oceans, or, you know, something in that realm.
Yes, we'll include that.
Okay, great, thanks.
And I have one good of the order. Saturday, we have a work party again. We're meeting at Madison Park from 10 till noon to kill ivy and holly and blackberries. So if you want to come, meet at 10 o'clock at Madison Park.
And I have a good of the order.
Okay.
Monday is Coffee with the Counselors Day,
Right.
10 a.m. Coffee with the counselors.
Yeah, I really wish that some of the people who were concerned about the cost of the school, taking money away from housing, et cetera, would show up at Coffee and the Counselors and express their views so we could have a dialogue, you know, because when you speak at the good of the order, you don't really get a chance to have much of a dialogue, you know, so that would be great.
We need a plant to ask that question.
Yeah. Yeah.
True.
Okay. Anything else? Yes. I thought you were done.
Oh, yeah, it's right over you. Want to give you an update on the bus.
Oh, good.
We've had ongoing conversations with the transportation district. They have a meeting next Thursday. I will be going to talk to the board about it. What I'm hearing from Paul Lewicki is that they want to do something. They want to add routes between the 7 a.m. and the 6 p.m. But the state is still withholding funds that they were supposed to have received already. And so he said, without that funding, we really can't, because it's going to have to be a partnership to try to do more within the city of Cannon Beach. But and they really appreciate the fact that we're stepping up. But unless those funds come in, they won't be able to help us.
Are they withholding because of the investigation that's going on?
I don't know, and I don't know if they know. When I was talking to Paul, I didn't get an indication. He said, well, because of this, they're still holding our money. It's just they were trying to get the money freed up.
Okay.
They've gotten a lot of,
Frustrating.
sent out a broad net for asking people for information, and we've got several responses. And generally it clusters from like 6 a.m. to 9 or 10. And then from like 3 to 7 or so.
So you've gotten a good response
Yes.
from that. Good.
Yeah.
Good. That was nice for the chamber to do that for us. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.